the belt of new head coach Casey Stoney. How has the team looked under her? What do we know about Casey Stoney based on the lineups she's put out there? That's everything we're going to discuss here as we get you ready for this match here on One Soccer. It is Match Day Live. Andy Petrillo alongside Jordan Wilson and Amy Walsh. That's right. We have one more game to go, and the Canadians really are in a must-win situation. I was feeling a little left out there. Thank you very much. I saw that from the corner of my eye. Here's the table. So earlier today, Mexico-China, they played, and the Mexicans defeated China 2-0. They're the ones sitting at the top of the table. As you can see, a draw will not do for the Canadians. They need an all-out win here today against Chinese Taipei, who's at the bottom of the standing. So how have things gone so far for the Canadians? Well, they opened up the tournament 1-1 against China. Then they defeated Mexico 2-0. Mexicans going down a player in that game. The Canadians taking full advantage of that. So when you look at how they've played so far, what kind of assessment do you have of the Canadians, Amy?
Well, before I get into that, I kind of like the idea that there's a little bit of pressure on them today to come up with a result that might ratchet up the collective performance, because so far that has been a little bit clunky. And Casey Stoney talked about that, implementing new tactical systems, nuances. That's going to happen. But for me, I think fans, pundits alike, even probably Casey Stoney, would like the individual performances to look a little bit brighter within that collective, which we know is a work in progress.
Yeah, there's been some growing pains. Has it been underwhelming the past two games? I think so, just as a fan. But I mean, they're 90 minutes away from winning something and maybe lifting a trophy, and they still haven't lost. So I guess that is the glass half full, is the fact that there's still something to play for, and this team is coming together. Of course, they're going to be growing pains with Casey Stoney and how things are different. But having something to play for and win, that's the ultimate goal for me.
And I guess that is something you have to give the Canadians credit for when you say they haven't lost. The last time they lost, it's October 28, 2023. That was a 1-0 loss to Brazil. So if they don't sometimes go an all-out win or have convincing performances, they are getting draws. And I think here under Casey Stoney, confidence is what needs to build as well for this team under a new head coach. But if you are the new head coach, where do you think she wants to see improvements?
I think just a little bit more fight. I think watching the past two games, there are just things that are happening. I know we can get caught up, us in the media, just also as a team. You could talk about how they're playing, what system, tactics, but there's just principles in football that just should never, ever go away, which is making sure you're first to the ball, making sure that you're compact and you're hard to beat. And I think, too, there are spells when, specifically last match against Mexico, where Mexico is taking it to Canada. And I just feel like Canada have so many gems on this team and such a strong squad that they should always be dictating the tempo, and they should always be the ones kind of driving that home. So hopefully we see that more today, Amy.
Yeah, and you said we in the media, and you gave me some side-eye, but
no,
it's okay. I think
side-eye was given.
All of us
Andy?
in the media.
You're one of us now.
I know, one of us. One of us, yeah. But I think, to your point about confidence, it's yes, they were unbeaten in regular time through 2024, so far through 2 matches of the Pinatar Cup, but its goals will also lend the group a lot of that confidence. And you also get it by the bright spots we've seen, the spells of possession, the progressive, vertical, attacking football. We've seen it in glimmers. Can we see it across 90 in a more comprehensive performance?
Well, why don't we take a look at Casey Stoney's starting 11, brought to you by GE. It'll give us a better indication of what she's going to try and accomplish here, because another big question we have is, do you go out and win it all, or do you continue to experiment? Obviously, the answer would be both. Wouldn't that be great? But we are looking at probably another experimental kind of lineup here, because I think if you look at the substitutions, there's a lot of names there that would typically be in the starting 11. So when you look at this starting 11 here for this tournament, maybe the big one that stands out, Vanessa Gilles, especially when you go on offense there, like a lot of the offense has been coming from her, Amy, but that's a big change.
Yeah, so set piece conversion, can that still be as good? Because we saw the service be quite good. We saw numbers flooding the box. We saw them finishing that way. But I think it's a different tactical look. And we won't see Simia Wujo picked up a knock in training. Not going to feature in that midfield. So I think it's a balance. Maybe see 2 6s sitting in the midfield, a little bit more insulation, and the team looking a little bit more resolute defensively, and then anything offensively kind of coming out of that. And Casey Stoney talked about the transition moments, Jordan, how they had to be better in that. And I think this formation, even though it's a lot of chopping and changing, it's a lot of new faces, will allow them to do that.
Yeah, I think we also have to commend Casey Stoney for coming in, because she made a promise to herself, to her team, and also to the coaches, that there's not going to be a player that's playing all 3 games or 3 games and a lot of minutes. So that's why Vanessa Gilles is not playing today, because she played 290s and did a great job. So I like that part of it, the fact that there are new players coming in. I feel like the only player that is available and that is healthy that hasn't played is Nia Rose, and she also said to us that she's probably someone that's going to come into this match as well. So with this new era of Canada and new players coming in, you kind of like that Casey Stoney in her third game has basically played everyone and seen all of them. I think that's just a bright spark when you're looking at the team moving forward.
She's sticking to her word and maybe even her game plan, because when she was first introduced, I did ask her, what did it feel like to have an entire year where you weren't really winning something big or having to qualify for something big? And she's like, I am actually relishing in the opportunity to experiment with all these players. It's exactly what she's doing, Amy. But that doesn't mean she doesn't want to look for some improvements here either, right? So now a lot of these players have been able to show their coach what they've got, not just in games, but obviously in training. Who do you think she wants to see here maybe kind of pick things up a little bit?
I think it's just seeing whoever, as she said, there's no nailed down starter. There's nobody who is kind of sharpied into that starting 11 as they go through this 2025. But I love what you were saying there, Andy, about both. Yeah, you want to win, you want a little bit of silverware, but you want to experiment. And Casey Stoney in her Matchday -1 was talking about working with Jessie Marsh and kind of leaning on each other and having like a similar identity. There's going to be differences, there's going to be nuances between the two teams. But I was thinking about Jesse Marsh when he came in, 10 days in Rotterdam with those players before they faced the likes of the Dutch and the French. So it was an accelerated learning curve by design. They were up against it. They had to do it that way. Casey Stoney now is, so that's like an immersive, intensive experience. And now Casey Stoney, we've seen the Coles Notes of Casey Stoney football, because she doesn't have the pressure because of the opponent and because of something looming. So we will see that. We have to be a little bit more patient till we wait for that to emerge.
Who has stood out?
I think for me, Emma Regan in the midfield has been exceptional. I think watching this team closely for the past couple of years, just ask for, everyone talks about a destroyer, and you played with probably the best one in Desiree Scott. But I'm not saying that you have to be her, but you have to have some of those characteristics in the midfield. Do the dirty work, be the custodian, garbage woman, whatever it might be, just to clean up stuff. And I think Emma Regan has shown that. And the fact that when you ask Casey Stoney, and her eyes kind of lit up a bit in terms of she tackles, she covers ground. That's what you need in that spot. So I think she's had an exceptional window, and she's definitely made her claim to Casey Stoney.
Yeah, she's the heir apparent to a Desi Scott, and I think when that personality, that person who took up so much space in a way of leadership, but also the way that she could break up play, her defensive acumen, I take umbrage at garbage woman. I don't like it one bit, but in terms of breaking up play, laying down the tackles when required, but also the technical ability and her ability to work out of tight spots, be that outlet, and then start the build-up play going the other way. That is what Emma Regan's being able to do, and nobody else in that roster, even a wider roster, can do that right now.
Yeah. I think that's why there's a lot of excitement as well to see her in the NSL, by the way, right? First national team player who'll be playing in that, well, she was the first to sign, I should say. Others have definitely joined her. When we take a look at this lineup, you kind of broke it down a little bit as well, Amy, and obviously Casey Stoney changing things around. What do you think she's trying to hope to achieve here? Why the change?
I think it's, again, to see players, to see them under pressure, to see what kind of comes to the fore. A lot of these players in preseason form, so we're not going to see the best out of them, but can we get a little bit more attacking fluency? You look at the first matchup against China, you had different looks in both channels, but you had some success, you had some vertical football. I think the second game you saw a little bit more composure, a little bit more control, but you saw them thrown off their game by some reckless, dirty play, and I think they were a little bit hesitant. So I think today you want to pull together the most positive moments out of those two, and can they convert into goals so that as they come into 2025, they're really on the right foot.
I think when a coach comes in and you play different players, obviously the biggest thing they're looking for is what works in the chemistry on the pitch. So playing two up top and having that be a focus for Stoney, the fact that she wants to play attacking football. She said to us, like, I want to get the ball forward as quickly as possible and play from there. So now it's for those two up top to be like, hey, whoever I'm paired with, like, you're not subbing me. I think that should be the mentality. I know for me, playing against two up top, it is very difficult because when do you go and do you press? If two center backs go high, there's that space in behind you. When you have one, you're basically like, oh, you can just deal with that person and then I deal with the space. But two, they got to be more dynamic with, hey, one's coming to show, one's going deep. switching it up when that happens. So I think Stoney's looking for all those things to be in the right frame of mind moving forward.
And I think this is exactly what fans want to see, maybe even the players themselves, because I'm sure the players don't want to hear one more time, how do you unlock more goals? You have to try and do these typical formations, and also just players playing in different positions as well to see. By the way, that was Ashley Lawrence when we saw her on the right that time. Suddenly our eyes were open, even when Sydney Collins wasn't injured, and it was more of that 3-5-2, how great she was in that dynamic duo position. This is the type of tournament you do that in. So here's the starting 11 brought to you by GE of Chinese Taipei, who the Canadians will be facing, as mentioned there at the bottom of the standings. However, you never want to take any opponent for granted. The Canadians need to go out and win this one if they want to win the Pinatar Cup. So yeah, in a year where they don't really have much to qualify for, play for, wouldn't it still be nice to win a trophy? We continue with our CONCACAF Champions Cup coverage of Vancouver Whitecaps Leg 2 taking on Saprissa. Yeah, despite scoring first, dropping that game, it'll be a tough Leg 2 for them, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on One Soccer. Matchday Live continues in Spain for the Pinatar Cup, Canada versus Chinese Taipei. We'll hear from their captain, Jesse Fleming, when we return here on One Soccer.
Save up to 33% on select Walmart brand products. She nods in approval and places the tuna in her cart. This lady loves her tuna. She questions the ominous voice above her. Oh.
Basketball is a very physical sport. There's so many times that I've got hit on the basketball court. Marks don't hold you back.
Movement leaves marks. Do not antiperspirant shouldn't.
Degree Ultra Clear. Non-stop protection against white marks.
This ultimate mouth-watering moment is brought to you by the big, bold, ultimate taste of Ultimate Chicken Hot Dogs. Only from Maple Lodge Farms.
Dallas Canadian Championship carrying on. Passing into the box. Ahead of Roberto Zapater. Justin Jackson. Can you believe a second loss for a brace? Square pass for Josh Hurd has found the opening goal. Breaks the deadlock. Cordova sends a good run, and Osvaldo Leon has opened the scoring. And Andre Rampachan, it's a collector's item. And the Wanderers lead by 2 goals to 1. The match's opening goal, Diogo Resurrecção.
Welcome back. Match Day Live. Well, earlier we caught up with Jesse Fleming ahead of today's match on the sit-down presented by Visa. And I asked her if growing as a team or winning the Pinatar Cup was more important for this team.
think it's both at the same time. I think the camp has gone by very quickly. It's been a bit hectic, just all coming from our different club environments and trying to get back on the same page with the national team. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of developing players, getting used to a new coach, and always coming into camp wanting to win games. I mean, of course, it feels a bit different. Every coach has different ways of doing things, different tactics. Yeah, I mean, it's a different person, so different personality. But yeah, I do think it helps that there's a group of us who have played together for a long time and know each other well. So there is a bit of that cohesion, but definitely some new ideas and new ways of operating, which I think is exciting. I think it's a good challenge for the group and challenge for us as individuals. So I think right now the team is just trying to lean into new systems and new ideas and yeah, go from there. I think there's definitely a very special culture that we have, both with ourselves and with our staff. We're a very close-knit group, so I think there's something about preserving that. But I think for Casey as a person, she has very high standards and has already challenged us as a group and as individuals. And I think that change and that challenge is good for us. And yeah, I think right now we just feel really optimistic for what that can bring, but also wanting to be patient and give it a bit of time. I think it goes to like putting players in positions that they're best suited to. I think, you know, how can we get players like Ashley Lawrence and Jade Riviere in higher crossing positions? Yeah, players that have a history of just being able to deliver quality passes or quality finishes in the box. And I also think it's just gonna take time to figure out what partnerships work best, what partnerships are the most lethal, and again, how we can get the best out of all of our players, but in this case, in the attacking players, what that looks like. And I think in the last year or two, you've seen some new faces score goals, like Mimi's come on and had a really good impact in the attack. So I think that's exciting. I think Liv Smith has had an incredible year at Liverpool. So I think there's a lot to be optimistic about in terms of the attack.
Talking Mimi, Aladou, and of course Olivia Smith, they're mentioning them when it comes to the attack, and we're going to focus on the attack. By the way, if you want to watch the entirety of that interview, you can head on over to the One Soccer YouTube channel. This is going to be the question. I kind of joked about the players don't want to be asked anymore about unlocking goals, but that is going to be the question around this team, because that's been the struggle, Amy. Even their Olympic gold, that was done on the backs of incredible defensive work, and credit to Jesse Fleming, who's absolutely cold as ice when it comes to stepping up to the penalty spot. But when you look at the top two, we've seen different tandems. Who do you think can really pull the strings, though, when it comes to goals?
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. But like first off, with the tandems, we've seen Vienne, we've seen Prince so far. We saw Heidema, Leon. Today, we're going to see a combination of the two with Heidema and Prince. I think that in the team, in their attacking, hasn't really given them the service to see what can be unlocked in the way they're playing off one another, how they're weaponizing the space, who's coming, who's going, getting a depth and a stretch on the attack. So I think the pace of a Laracy, even the Maisie play and the uniqueness of a Chloe Lacasse who's currently injured, the way that those two profiles can play off one another, we haven't quite seen it so far through this tournament.
Yeah, I agree. I think also, too, when I look at a must-win game, who you're going to put up top, and one name comes to mind, that's Olivia Smith. I think she's just so dangerous. She's a footballer, and the way that she thinks and has an eye for goal and isn't afraid to shoot, I think that's great. But who partners with her, I'm not convinced yet. And I think that's one of those things where maybe Casey Stoney is thinking, who's going to show me who else can be up top?
But she's mentioned it. One of the bright spots for Casey Stoney has been Mimi Aladou. She was flabbergasted that she was overlooked in a previous regime. And those two together, we talk about the attacking tandem, it's really about those creative number 9s, or number 10s rather, who's going to play in those pockets and unlock and ignite the Canadian attack. To me, it's unlocked by way of those two players and those two profiles of Olivia Smith and Mimi Aladou.
Well, especially if she's going to play Ashley Lawrence back in that kind of left back, left wing position, right? Because when she was on the right, suddenly the service
crosses, baby,
were incredible, right? But yes, if you want that left foot and you want to play a little back, now you got to find out who else does that. But if you have these younger players who can do that, then maybe now you are finally unlocking something. Maybe the key has been found. But either way, we got to focus on the task at hand here. So while Casey Stoney continues to try and figure out her team, we know that the Canadians are in a must-win situation here today. They opened up the tournament with a draw. Then they pulled off a victory against Mexico 2-0. Now only a win will give them.
Can we win the cup?
Can we win the cup?
Can we win the cup?
In
Please.
Spain, can they win the Pinatar Cup?
Please.
Canada versus Chinese Taipei. There it is, Jordan.
Can we win the cup?
Hey, it's not pink, you guys.
Let's win the cup.
That's
Come on.
win. So there you go. Canada, Chinese Taipei. Kickoff right around the corner here. Matchday live on One Soccer. Only a win will give Canada that trophy.
CanadaSoccerStore.com is the official home for the widest range of Canada Soccer licensed product, match jerseys, and fanwear.
Are you having any fun? What you getting out of living? Who cares for what you've got if you're not having any fun? Are you having any laughs? Are you getting any loving? If other people do, why can't you have a little fun? And have a little fun.
Access Storage, supporting Canadian communities for over 25 years. Buy Canadian, store Canadian.
From nutritious feed to 7 times omega. Enjoy the goodness of Nature Egg Omega Plus eggs. A lot goes into a little at Burnbrae Farms.
Allstate and its 900 agents proudly support Canadian soccer at every level. Visit allstate.ca.
On a Tuesday evening in southeastern Spain, Canada has an opportunity to win some silverware tonight. And well, their new head coach, fresh off her first victory at the helm of this national team, proclaims they're not particularly interested in winning this tournament, rather looking ahead to the future of the program. As the players walk out on the pitch beside the Pinatar Cup, they must be thinking to themselves, that would be nice to hoist in 90 minutes time. It would of course be the first title of any kind since the big one at the Tokyo Olympics, and it would be a perfect way to kickstart the Casey Stoney era. We'll have the starting 11s for you right after the national anthems on One Soccer.
For the national anthem of Canada. remain standing for the anthem of Chinese Taipei.